So, according to the 2026 State of People Strategy Report, the world of HR is in a really fascinating, kind of paradoxical spot right now. You've got professionals being squeezed by all this pressure, but at the same time, the absolute best in the field are finding ways to stretch and really thrive. This image, well, it just gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? For so many people in HR today, their career feels like it's balanced on a knife's edge. Somewhere between, hey, this is a secure job, and I am about to burn out. So, what does the data actually tell us? Well, on the surface, things look pretty good. A huge majority, we're talking 79% of HR professionals, feel like their job is secure, and they expect their budgets and headcount to either stay the same or maybe even grow. But that is definitely not the whole story. And this slide right here shows you the real conflict. On one hand, you have 90% feeling good about their budgets, but on the other, a staggering 41% have seriously thought about just quitting HR altogether in the last year. So job security isn't fixing this deeper crisis. This right here, this is the squeeze. So you might be asking, where is all this pressure coming from? Well, it's coming from being caught right in the middle, stuck between competing demands from either direction and these deep, nagging doubts about the value of the work they're doing. This quote from Rana Robillard, man, it just says it all. HR is the engine room for a company's most important asset, its people. But that engine is running hot, It's carrying this massive emotional and operational load, and a lot of the time, it's not getting the support it needs to keep going. And the data, it completely backs this up. A third of HR pros feel like they're stuck playing referee between employees and leaders on really sensitive topics like diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, or DEIB. And on top of that, nearly a quarter are trying to manage all the political and cultural polarization that's just seeped into our workplaces. They are stuck, literally, right in the middle. Now there's another major shift in priorities that's just adding to this pressure. For the very first time, performance management has shot up to become HR's #1 focus. But here's the thing. This has created what the report calls a cruel irony. What's so interesting here is the story this timeline tells. I mean, just look at the paths of performance and DEIB. Back in 2023, they were almost neck and neck, right? Both were priorities. But fast forward to today, and performance has just skyrocketed to a 40% priority, while DEIB, it's plummeted to just 16%. They're going in completely opposite directions. And here it is. Here's that cruel irony. This quote from Natalie Briest just nails it. In this big rush to prioritize performance, companies are actually deprioritizing one of the single biggest things that drives performance, a culture where people feel seen, where they feel valued. Okay, so as if that wasn't enough, let's add another layer of complexity. We've got different generations experiencing fundamentally different workplaces, even when they're sitting in the exact same office. This chart breaks it down so well. You've got Gen Z and millennials, and for them, it's all about developing people, helping them grow. But they're getting burned out by understaffed teams and just the emotional toll of the job. Then you look at Gen X and boomers. They're way more focused on strategy and influence, but they're struggling to keep up with what employees actually need today. Everyone has a different why. And if you want to see this gap in just stark black and white terms, look no further than return to office policies. An overwhelming 83% of boomers are totally on board with their company's RTO plan. But for Gen Z, it's less than half. That is a massive divide on a core workplace issue. All right, let's talk about tech for a minute, because this is another area where HR is just caught in a huge tug of war. The pressure is on to innovate with cool new tools like AI, but at the exact same time, to cut costs. Think about this. Over half of all HR teams, that's 55%, are feeling some serious pressure from leadership to consolidate their tech stack. The mandate from the top is crystal clear. Streamline the budget, cut the tools, and do more with less. But if we look at the teams that are really crushing their goals, the ones that are exceeding expectations, a completely different picture starts to emerge. They aren't just following that mandate to consolidate. They're kind of writing their own playbook. And here is the punchline. Almost half of all high-performing HR teams are actually using more tools. We're talking 6 or more to be exact. They see specialized technology not as a cost they need to cut, but as a strategic lever for success. And this, my friends, brings us to the stretch.
So if the squeeze is the problem, then the stretch is the solution. The most effective people teams, they're not breaking under all this pressure. Nope. They're finding ways to stretch their capabilities, stretch their influence, and stretch their impact. So the big question is, how are they doing it?
Well, it really boils down to 3 core strategies. First, they double down on people-centric programs. Second, they really lean into technology and AI. And third, they get incredibly good at showing, with actual data, how their work directly impacts the business's goals. This right here, this is exactly what stretching looks like in practice. These winning teams are 5 times more likely to prioritize DEIB. Half of them are already using advanced AI on the regular. They're more excited about tech, they use more specialized tools, and here's the most important part, they don't treat HR programs like these little standalone projects, they weave them right into the fabric of the business strategy. And that brings us right to the ultimate conclusion of this report. The most successful teams, they get it. They understand that performance and engagement are not opposing forces. They're twin stars, as one chief human resources officer put it. They don't compete, they fuel each other. So, the final question is really one for you to think about. When you look at your own organization, at your own people strategy, are you creating conditions that squeeze your teams? Or are you building the foundations that will allow them to stretch,